So, very happy Monday to you all. We have some good, interesting, and fantastic things to cover this week. And so let's get down to it. We had some nice trades last week, some great setups that played out very nicely. And this week we've got more good stuff to talk about. As always, for anybody that would like to see how we trade a little more in depth, you are absolutely, positively, 100% more than welcome to get a free trial right at that link I just sent over. That's daytradersfx.com/join. And we'd love to have you with us. It's just a free, no pressure trial. You can hang out with us for the week, see what you think, see if you learn some good stuff, and take it from there. So we'd love to have you. Free trial. Get set up right at that link. Okay, let's get down to the real craziness that's coming. So I have two thoughts about this week, and I'm pretty curious to hear what you guys have to think about it. We have a lot of big news coming this week, and sometimes that's really, really good, and sometimes it's just conflicting stuff all over the place. When we have too much big news in one day or week or whatever, it can really get the markets going kind of crazy. And this week is going to be interesting. This is the first week of the month. Sometimes we get really big movements. Sometimes things are just crazy. It just totally depends. I don't know what's going to happen. Hey, Gustavo, nice to see you. And so we're just going to be super open to a couple of things and setups that happen this week. First of all, starting the week off on this lovely Monday afternoon, we have the Australian interest rate statement at 9:30 p.m. chat time. So in about a little less than 5.5 hours, just slightly less than 5.5 hours, that's going to be coming. And you can just expect madness out of the Aussie pairs. Maybe. Unless things just totally get really whacked out and go crazy, and there's just no news, and the market just chops around for a little bit and then goes flat. Okay, Sharon having a little problem. Is audio still good for everybody? Hey, Suresh from Trinidad. Good to see you. Good to see you. Very nice to see you with us. It was good meeting you in Arizona. Great to see you. Okay, audio's still good. All right. So sometimes when audio goes bad, it's just, the individual internet connection. So it might just be on that end. Okay, very good. So with the Australian interest rate news, things might just go nuts this evening, and that is a real possibility. So I will peek in tonight and see how things are looking. I'm not totally planning on making it an official session because it's pretty late for a lot of people. It's not really a good time for anybody unless you're in Pacific time zone, which there's minimal of those here, myself included. So I don't think we'll do a live session because most people won't be here. We'll just kind of trade the reaction of that like tomorrow morning. But just know, if you have any Aussie pairs running, that in the next several hours we're going to see an interest rate statement and the interest rate announcement. Things could go kind of crazy. Tuesday is not super nuts, although we have GDP numbers for the Australian dollar, which can definitely get things going a little bit. Wednesday is like basically riding a bike down Mount Everest. It's just going to be totally wild and crazy. So on Wednesday we have services PMI for the UK, and then we start off with interest rate announcement for the European Union. The ECB will announce interest rates, and then in the US, literally minutes later, we have non-farm, the ADP non-farm number, which is the precursor for the regular non-farm payroll on Friday. Then we have trade balance in Canada, and then right after all of that we have the press conference. Keep in mind that the press conference for the European Central Bank last month did like nothing, and pretty much like every other time. So one time we see huge movements, the next time it does nothing, the next time we see huge movements, and so on. And last time it was pretty boring. So I'm expecting something to explode this time, and I'll tell you why in just a moment. And then we have U.S. trade balance, and that's all before 7 a.m. And then we have some ISM numbers for the U.S., and then we have Australian retail sales. Wednesday is just ridiculous. So chances are we'll be watching the rate statement, or excuse me, the press conference for the ECB live in the group on Wednesday morning. So group members, we will be on for that. And that's just going to be a massive movement. Everything else is going to be going so crazy on that day that it'll be interesting to see how it goes. But I think this is still going to be big for the euro, so plan on that. That's going to be a big deal. And then we follow that up on Thursday with UK interest rate announcements. This is definitely, a possible scare, tactic kind of situation. So just be ready for that. And then on Friday, of course, we polish things off with Canadian employment numbers and U.S. employment numbers. So it is just it's just total madness this week. So we're going to get lots of movement, lots of spiky stuff, and we're just going to be really super cautious and careful about how we trade this week, because when we have that much news, it's just wild and crazy. So it's just totally nuts when we have that much news. Okay, so that's what we have this week. Remember, you can get a free trial at daytradersfx.com/join. We'd love to see you. Okay, going back to this euro dollar. I'm really liking the euro dollar lately because I think there's a lot of major potential there. Going back to the euro dollar, the one thing that keeps nagging me, and somebody could correct me if I'm totally wrong, which I don't know if any of us will know this, but this week, this current run on the euro dollar, it's just totally over. It's just totally overextended. The euro dollar has tried to make big bounces up on the daily chart after this huge rundown, and our 200 moving average setup is just getting beyond extended. Now, it's not totally overextended, but it's about 200 bars past its average number. It's creeping up on maximum pips. 2800 is the max pip movement away from the 200 moving average, and we're about 2200. So there still is a little bit to go, but the euro dollar is looking pretty interesting, and it's just nagging me of oversoldness. And I can't think of any really great reason that the euro would rebound and head up unless Draghi comes out on Wednesday with some pretty interesting data that gets this thing going. I'm being pretty cautious and pretty timid about selling the euro dollar because, again, I think it's pretty darn overextended. So at this point, we're kind of watching price patterns to see where things go. We kind of have, I mean, it's almost a little bit of a stretch, but it's not a total stretch. We need to touch this 200 moving average to get off my conscience, and this is almost 1600. You can see that's 550, 600 pips away. But what we could potentially be looking at on the euro dollar is a bit of a head and shoulders type pattern. It's kind of an angled head and shoulders pattern, but this could be pretty massive, and we could see the euro dollar really start to press higher. It might make one more dip. We might hit 10900. We might get below 10900. It could also have a massive double bottom down here at about 10500. Definitely a possibility, but I don't know if we're going to see a huge move down before this thing starts to move up a little bit more. So at this point, I'm pretty neutral on euro dollar with a afterthought in the back of my mind of it's time to be long euro dollar. But I will do almost absolutely nothing before the European Central Bank press conference on Wednesday. And that's just where the central bankers for Europe get together and they say, this is what's up. And that should give us a pretty decent idea. We already know that the U.S. Is like absolutely planning on raising interest rates this year, and Europe is so far from something like that. So we'll see how that plays out. But the euro is going to be an interesting one, so let's keep our eye on that. The pound is also starting to reek of oversoldness as well. So many pairs that broke out and made big retracements. We had these huge moves down, right, on the weekly chart. I don't know why my chart's being weird. We had these huge moves down from the highs of 2014 to the lows of 2015. Everything pulled up, bounced a little bit, and then it's pulling back down again. And these big moves, these wild and crazy things that have been happening, have retraced a bunch. The euro dollar is the only one that hasn't really satisfactorily retraced to kind of get me out of that, this is an oversold pair. But the pound sure has. It retraced a good bit, hit the 200 moving average, hit some big Fibonacci levels, and it's coming right back down again. Now, I'm watching the pound dollar, and I'm kind of watching this little short-term channel, and I think if the pound gets back up above 153.00, I think I want to be really long pound dollar above 153.00. I don't really have a sell idea right now. I just don't have a sell idea, but above 153.00, I think the pound dollar is a great opportunity to get long and probably ride it out for 300 to 400 pips above 153.00. So let's be ready for that, and I think that's going to be a nice move. So remember, long pound dollar above 153.00. Let's get after that thing. The Australian dollar, again, there's nothing I'm going to do with Australian dollar until, at the very earliest, interest rate announcements happen in the next several hours. And the pound, or excuse me, the Aussie dollar made this big retracement. It's made this huge retracement up. Remember we talked about Fibonacci levels. We grabbed some pretty excellent pips on this move in the trading group, like 175 pips. And it retraced up, hit the 200 moving average, hit some Fibonacci levels and some missed pivots, and then it came right back down. And now it's kind of bottoming out once again at this 75.50, 7600 area. Hi, Jose. Welcome. Nice to see you. And so with the Australian dollar bottoming out at this 75.50 to 7600 area, this is going to be an important point where I hate to state the absolute obvious, but something major is going to happen. And I don't totally know what that major thing is, but it's either going to... if we kind of look at it from these two last recent swing points here, and we look at it, and we can even get rid of this little situation right there, because that's kind of an old situation there. But if we look at it from kind of these most recent levels and so on, we have a pretty... From either there or there, it doesn't really matter, it gives us the same reading. We have a pretty huge falling wedge, and this is a major support level. 75.50 area is major support. So if we start getting below that, there's plenty of reason to believe that the Australian dollar could push lower. And I'm totally open to that happening, and I think it probably will happen. But likewise, if it holds that 75.50 area, I think we have an excellent opportunity to start getting long some Aussie dollar and start trading some of that stuff up. You know, with stops below probably 7,500, just slightly below 7,500. Now, here's just a little short-term trade, and again, we don't want to do anything with this before the Australian interest rate news, which is coming up in several hours. But we have a nice little rundown with some consolidation and retracement. I think we might have a very, very small bear flag in the works on the Australian dollar, and I think this is going to be a nice little trade for us. So a nice little rundown, some retracement, and probably a break and at least a retest of 75.50 area. So I'm just keeping an eye on that. But the level to watch for, let's just make sure that everyone is super duper clear on what I'm looking for. So on pound dollar, I want to be long above 15300. That's just what I need to make my life better. Now, if it keeps moving down, then I don't really have much I'm going to do with it. But if it gets above 15300, I want to be long at that area. Australian dollar. Let's just make sure this is crystal clear for everyone, because this is pretty important. 75.50 is crucial. So above that, if that level holds, we want to be long Aussie dollar. If that level breaks, we want to be short Aussie dollar below that. So hopefully that's clear. If anyone has any questions, let me know. Sadly, we can't do too much with the Euro CAD until Euro interest rates come out and happen. But we still have maybe the biggest head and shoulders pattern on the daily chart, that the most obvious head and shoulders pattern that I've probably seen in a long time. There's not really an amazing reason to believe that the euro is going to rally hugely against the Canadian dollar, but all I know is, fundamentally speaking, it's not heavily supported. Technically speaking, it's pretty supported. It's looking pretty good. So here's our big head and shoulders pattern. This is on the daily chart. As long as this little low right here holds, this is the low of the right shoulder, and that's at about 134.30. And here we are, you know, a good 250 pips away from that. As long as that holds, I want to be long Euro CAD. I want to be long above that on Euro CAD into like 142. I just want to be long into 142. I think that's a great move, and I think that the you know, with the euro dollar being so oversold and the euro CAD having such a bullish reversal pattern here, it leads me to believe that the European Central Bank might come out with something that's bullish for or hawkish, I guess, for the for the euro. So in a worst case scenario, I want to be long, above these highs, which are about 137.70. I want to be long above 137.70 and just ride this sucker straight up. And I want to buy any dips with stops below 134.30. And so let's just make sure that's crystal clear as well. So we want to have buy with stops below 134.30. So that's kind of our first thing that we're looking to do here, and get into some of that. Or if we just don't get enough of an opportunity, we will be long above 130. Whoops, there we go. Above 137.70. So this is what I am pretty excited about on this euro CAD, and I think it's going to be a huge mover. I think once we get above 137.70, 13800, it should be good for probably 400 to 500 pips. So if you are anybody that's remotely interested in semi long-term trades, that's your money right there. That's the go get 'em. And that's euro CAD. Okay. Dollar CAD is not doing anything too terribly exciting except for running straight up in this little channel right here where it's just bouncing and bouncing and bouncing and bouncing. And if it breaks out of this channel, which is very possible, I would like to get short, but I definitely don't want to buy this thing to run it higher. And I hate that all the setups are really screaming dollar weakness, because I think there's a pretty good case to be made for dollar bullishness, but I think that I want to make sure that some of these overextended pairs get a chance to retrace, and the dollar CAD is getting a little extended in the short term, and so a little break of this channel and I'd be getting in somewhere. I don't really know where, but I'd be looking for a move down into, probably down into 12300 area. I think there's a couple hundred pips there. So regarding the euro CAD, if we get into this at the break of 137.70, this is always a tricky situation because stops are going to be pretty difficult, because if we get in right there, we're going to have a 300 pip stop. No, probably not, but we'll want to have a stop. It's just going to kind of be a price action. Whenever I trade these big breakouts, I let the market break above the level, and as long as it can hold above that level, then I stay in it. If it comes right back down below that level, I get out pretty quick. So stops, would be 30, 40 pips right around there. And then every time it peaks back up above again, I'm jumping back into it. And I'm jumping back in every time it goes up until it finally gets above that level and stays above that level. So risk minimal, and it's even okay to risk 20 pips. If it breaks this high, and you get into a nice little trade, and you can get in as close to 137.70 as possible. Have a 20 pip stop, have a 25 pip stop, and just re-enter this thing as many times as you need. Or the alternative is use a really small trade size and give yourself like a 200 pip stop, which I don't do very much, but it's definitely one way of going about it. So I think that euro CAD's looking pretty amazing for something like that. Okay, I don't have much to say about the dollar Swiss franc. One small thing to say about the dollar yen, because apparently the dollar yen's never coming back down ever again, and it's just going to run straight up, and that's just what we have to accept as far as setups on the dollar yen go. We have a nice bull flag right here, and it's retracing and consolidating pretty nicely right there. Just as far as short-term trades go, I would be okay with a very quick, small dollar yen trade somewhere above 124.85, 12500 area, and just jump into that and ride it for a couple of pips. We have a pretty choppy run up, but it's about a 100 pip run up, and so if we get in at the break of about 124.85.90, we could probably ride that thing close to 12600 before jumping out of that thing. So again, keep tight stops on that, lock in pretty quickly, but that's just a little short-term bull flag that I think will be worth trading and watching. We took a really nice trade on the Aussie New Zealand. I thought it should have been nicer, but it did give us 55 pips. And the Aussie New Zealand is just kind of had this massive run up, and it's consolidating now. So we might see further highs on Aussie New Zealand, and I'll be looking for opportunities depending on how the interest rate announcements go today. I'll be looking for opportunities to buy dips on Aussie New Zealand to trade it back up into some of those big high levels that we talked about at the beginning of the year. So I think that's going to be good. I'll have more details about that. And there's pretty much nothing else I'm too excited about at the moment. Some of these, excuse me, crazy random pairs have made some moves, and they're pretty choppy. This was one of our trades on pound CAD last week. It broke below our level, and it's just chopped around right at that level, and it's going kind of a bunch of nowhere. So we'll keep an eye on that. But those are the pairs I'm watching. I would love to get a buy opportunity on euro dollar. I'd love to be long pound dollar above 153.00. I will make a decision at 75.50 whether I need to be long or short, and that will come shortly after the interest rate announcement tonight. Euro CAD, I want to buy against 134.30 or buy above 137.70. Dollar CAD's not got as many wonderful levels, but a little break of this short-term channel could give us a nice move down. Look for that quick bull flag on dollar yen. Make a few bucks on that thing. Let's buy some dips on Aussie New Zealand, and that's it. That's what I'm looking for right now. That's all I'm doing, and that's where I want to kind of take things for the moment. So again, it's a news-intensive week, and it's going to be wild and crazy. So be very careful with all of the news that's coming out this week. But I think we have some really, really excellent trades in the works, and it should be fantastic. So again, you can get a free trial to the trade group, and you can get a more intimate setting on how we trade these setups with very specific entries and exits and so on. And you can do that clicking on this link right here, which is daytradersfx.com/join, and we'd love to have you. So thanks for being on, everyone. I'll send this recording out in just a couple of minutes, and I'll post a couple of charts to go with it as well. We have lots of levels posted. I would strongly recommend reviewing this video throughout the week. There will be 500 pips worth of profit by the end of the week, probably, so be ready for that. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for being on. Great to spend some time with you guys. Take care.